Welcome to Whispers to a Bride, where we talk about the stuff no one else is talking about. We are going deep on the emotional aspects of getting married, the stress, drama, and turbulence that affects your own sense of identity and your closest relationships. We are talking about what it means to be a bride and how to navigate this sacred time with more grace and ease. I'm your host, Kara Gassabay. As a life coach and therapist, I'm going to be sharing super practical tips so that you can not only rise to the occasion of your wedding, but also your life. Hey guys, welcome back to Whispers to a Bride. I am Kara, and today we are talking about a generous take. This is just a concept I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it came from the most random place, a TikTok comment. I had done a video, I think, about parents or siblings or just some way to think about what they were going through around your wedding. And that's something that I focus on a lot because doing bridal coaching is sort of just a form of family therapy usually. There's just, weddings bring up so many family dynamics, and it is just a huge moment in the overall arc and storyline and narrative and timeline of a family, right? You are bringing someone in, we're starting a new branch, everything is shifting, and it just is a big moment of change. And humans don't like change. Often we are very scared and overwhelmed and unsure. It's challenging for our brain. Our brain likes familiarity. We like to know who's who, how they act, what they do, right? So we just can go on autopilot. That is how we are wired. So a change, even a good change, like I always say, one that you prayed for and Pinterested for, is still change, and it's still hard, and it still rocks the boat. Even in the best case scenario where people like your fiance and they are happy for you, it can still just be like a tumultuous time. That is what people will never tell you about wedding planning. In the culture, everyone acts like it's like, oh, we can't figure out the flowers. Like, it's never that. It's that stuff's only hard because underneath there are all these feelings and all these unresolved conversations that need to happen and just heart-to-hearts that need to go on. And instead, we just focus on the party part, which again has its challenges, but it's the interpersonal stuff. It's the relationship stuff. It's those dynamics that are really fueling all of the angst and overwhelm and conflict and heartache and all the drama, as I always like. That's just the word I always land on. So anyway, I had done one of the videos that I do on TikTok, and somebody wrote, well, that was a really generous take. And I was like, I hadn't thought of it that way. And it's just a little turn of the phrase that really stuck with me, like a really generous take. What if that is the lens by which we view all of the crazy circus of things that tend to happen around us during wedding planning? Like, what if I could give you that as just another little tool to have in your pocket, a little lens through which to look at everything that's going on that is driving you nuts? What if you just did it with a generous take? So that means when someone is not writing back to the Bachelorette group text, instead of that initial feeling I think that so many of my brides have, which is like being offended, being disappointed, being let down, being not supported, being, being slighted in a friendship, like whatever it feels like, there's that defensive part of that feeling of offended and being wronged and being hurt and being upset. Instead, what if we give it a generous take? Like, what would a generous take on that be? Like, maybe something's going on, right? Maybe something's going on at work, or something's happening in her family, or she's unsure of how to interject herself in this group of girls that maybe she doesn't really know everybody, doesn't know where she stands, doesn't want to come on too strong. Maybe she's just really shy. Maybe she doesn't have any good ideas. Maybe she's having money issues. Like, there are so many things that could be happening. And maybe she's not telling us because she thinks that like her hard stuff is going to sour your beautiful, pretty wedding bridal moment. And so she's kind of trying to like deal with it on her own, whereas maybe before she would have brought it to you and now she's not. So now you don't know. And the whole thing just gets all crazy. So a generous take would be to just pause before that like hurt and offended side takes over. Again, let it be there because it's going to be there. You can be hurt. You can be disappointed. You can be offended, but we're not going to act from that place. We're going to try to take a generous take and instead just think, something must be up. This isn't like her. I want to reach out. I want to see what's up. I want to ask. I want to welcome her back in. I want to hear if there's something that's going on that maybe I need to know about that I could accommodate or help or assist or just listen or just connect, just be present. And that would be having a generous take. The other, I feel like, way that I see this come up, and it could be really helpful as you're planning your wedding, is what are the ways you can be generous with your wedding? The idea of your wedding and the time around it is usually one of great abundance, right? You found your person. You're in love. You're having a party. Like, that's a very abundant, exciting, you have a new beginning. You have people paying attention to you. Like a lot, you know me, I understand there's a whole flip side that is like so stressful to it. But there is that abundance. There is that really exciting, positive, just joyous element that absolutely is there. And I hope that it is that you're feeling that part. And I think that with that, you can be really generous during this time in your life in ways that maybe you couldn't have before. And again, that means in your friendships, like, because you do have so much emotional support from your fiance, maybe you can be a little more generous with your tolerance for your friends to have a misstep or a wrong move. Instead, I see so many brides being so much less tolerant, being so much more militant and raising the bar on their friends and making everything like jumping over hoops and proving their loyalty and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I feel like this is the time where you can like give your friends a break and let it be easier and let it be more fun. And because you have so much in your sort of emotional relationship house is really full. It should be anyway. Again, not that you don't need your friends and not that we don't want them there, but like, can we have a generous take in how we deal with them? And the same goes for your family. The moms and overstepping boundaries and wanting to be too involved or not involved enough. Like, what's a generous take? Again, we're usually feeling really constricted emotionally. We're feeling overwhelmed. We're going through this big change. It doesn't feel like we thought it would feel. But there are so many areas in which we can take a generous perspective on, okay, how can I allow my mom in? She wants to be involved. There's so many things I don't want her involved with, but like, what are the ways in which I can? You know, I'm always saying, look for the things that you do want to outsource and that you can give to your mother-in-law or your mother or your sister or whoever, and that let them run with it and take something off your plate instead of staying in that, like, you're in control of everyone and you don't want to let people in. What is the way of letting people into wedding world? That's where I think there's that disconnect. From the outside, people are assuming you're just having so much fun and planning this party and it's so great. Even though it doesn't always feel that way on the inside, I think there is a way to open the doors to your wedding world, to your wedding planning experience, and let people in and let it feel generous for them to give you help, and let it feel generous for you to invite them into the space with you and into the process and into the behind the scenes. Like, I just feel like so many times it gets missed. There are people out there who want to help you. You've got a feeling of overwhelm. And yet there's like this wall where they're not intruding because they think you don't need any help and that it's also fun and games and you would have, and then you're feeling like people haven't offered to help. You thought they were all going to be there to help. The people that you thought were going to be there aren't there. And so there's just a lot of like mismatched expectations and confused lines of communication and just a lot of sort of static, again, because there's all these cultural narratives about what's happening and how it's supposed to go, and mom is supposed to do this and auntie does this and best friend does that. And like, that's not real. People's lives are messy. People's relationships are complex. People's family dynamics are really different than what you maybe think that they are. And friendships are in a different place than people assume. And so I think we end up with like these just tricky situations. And I just want to invite you to have a generous take when people, with yourself and with your closest people. Just think of it that way. What is the most generous, loving, abundant way to look at every situation that is stressing you out and freaking you out? And like, how can you just pour generosity on it and let that generosity serve you and your closest relationships? And that can go financially speaking, but I'm really talking about the emotional, like giving people that benefit of the doubt that like, if they could, they would, or if they knew, then they would. So that's going to allow you to speak up, say what you need, explain your situation, ask for help, invite people in. Like, you're the one who's holding the abundance. And so use it, right? Use it. I just think the more that we can take a generous perspective, the most curious, open, respectful, benefit of the doubt, right? Give that first. And then if people show up and they really are a huge asshole or they really are a big problem, we'll deal with it. I am not totally Pollyanna-ish in all of this, but I just think it's so great to start with the generous take. Like, oh, my mother-in-law is being super opinionated. Okay. Do I like freeze and like start building a wall and pushing her away? Or do I just be like, she's expressing her interest. She wants to be involved. She's just trying to come in. And so let me figure out what are the ways that I can let her in so that it feels really good for both of us, instead of trying to push her out and then she's going to push harder. And now we're just playing this game. I just think a generous take is a great reminder for all of us in all of our lives. When anything goes wrong and we're feeling slighted and offended or hurt and alone or disappointed, what's the most generous take we can have on a situation? I think our relationships will thrive and heal and deepen so much more when we do that. Because when we just give people like the least, when we just assume the worst, it ends up spiraling. Then people have to prove themselves. Then we have to argue. Then we have to debate. Instead, we can just give a generous take. And I don't think you'll ever regret that, because we deserve it. All of us do. You deserve it. They deserve it. And this time in your life deserves it. You've been given a lot. And I think sometimes that's when it's time to like see if you can do a little more with your own generosity of spirit, of emotion, of bandwidth, of empathy and love. And I just think, again, it's one of those things that is going to serve you so well in your marriage. And it's going to serve you so well in expanding your family and integrating into your partner's world and your own world and the reconfiguration of all of these relationships. Let it be with a generous take. Until next time, I am wishing you nothing but bridal bliss.